Welcome to the Spokane City Council study session for this week. We have two matters. The longest is going to be public safety overtime study. Council Member Stratton is with us virtually. Council Member Wilkerson is in Olympia with Senator Padden watching Governor Inslee sign the condominium reform bill that was on the city's legislative agenda, so pretty exciting for housing issues today. But to start, I'm going to have Derek Landers come on up. Derek is going to present to us on a potential conceptual marketing campaign for the In Spokane We All Belong idea that we've been kicking around since we did our equity and inclusion training a few years ago, of a way to coalesce around a slogan that can not only advance the discussion about inclusion in Spokane, but do it in a way that creates affinity with more people. So, Derek, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a moment, but first, you designed our city flag, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Right here.
Yeah.
This is Derek. So, congratulations on that. And I asked Spokane Arts a while ago to brainstorm about ways that we could really propel We All Belong. And they connected with Derek, among other artists and creatives, to do things. And so he's just going to present some ideas of how it could look and different things, and answer any questions that people have. So, Derek, go ahead and introduce yourself just a little bit, like why you're in Spokane and what you're up to.
Hi, Derek Landers. I'm a lifelong Spokane resident. I've been a graphic designer for about 25 years now. And I own my own freelance design business. And anyways, did design the flag. That was a real honor to be able to do that. But I was approached by Council or President Beggs and also Spokane Arts to help come up with a branding solution for the new slogan, In Spokane We All Belong. So I put together a presentation kind of highlighting some of the things that we could do with it and some examples of how it could be used with some kind of rough breakdown of numbers of some of the things that could go into it. So this is the brand here, shown in just one color, which of course is important for branding to be able to be versatile for different uses and backgrounds and things like that. But if we move on to this page here, we can see where it is. We have an icon that is created, and of course this is a takeoff of the flag design. And then we have a couple different versions depending on usage. We have the icon with the text in just a regular kind of horizontal version, also a one color version, and then another kind of stacked version, and then another alternate stacked version. And the reason for this is, again, just depending on the usage that it would be used in, just the way it might fit on whatever it's being printed on or displayed on. So it's always nice to have a few options that are all still cohesive and kind of belong to the same look and feel. And then just some examples of, like, we could do banners and things like that. Any kind of swag or window stickers or window clings. And then of course you can see here we have in various different languages, and on the next slide you'll see the different examples of how we can translate the slogan and then present it in multiple languages. So, sorry, one more slide here of some examples. We have what potentially could be a mural, T-shirts. Again, another example of some different types of banners that we could do. And then here, and this is just a sampling of, there's obviously going to be more of them, but here's 6 different examples of some translations. And you can see that, the In Spokane is consistent among all of them, and then the We All Belong is then translated into the particular languages. And then this is just a breakdown of
Derek,
like,
Councilmember Kinnear has a question.
Could you go back one, please? Okay. So it says in Spokane, and then it has "We All Belong" in a different language. Was there any consideration of putting the entire thing in the different language?
yes, and the reason I went this route to just kind of in the preliminary stage is that some of the translations are longer than others, and trying to keep the consistency of
The
the
design.
overall brand.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
But
you.
it's certainly something that I considered, and I did explore that, and I mean, if it was deemed more appropriate, then we can make that work, yeah.
So do you feel that the people who speak those languages can figure out that we're saying in Spokane?
My hope is that with having in Spokane, the way it's presented here, that it's kind of a marriage of the two, where
Okay.
you're having the in Spokane, that's like the unifying part of it, and then the language of the different communities being in their spelling and their translation. So it's kind of a combination of the two.
So the in Spokane people will be the brand that we can then extrapolate from?
Yeah, and then the in Spokane, like that would be the main brand, and then we would do the translation. And again, with it being kind of color coded as well, so like the in Spokane's in blue, and then the translation's in the green.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, thank you.
You bet. So again, this is just kind of just a rough budget outline of what the branding would cost, and then, you know, T-shirts, posters, banners, things like that, that would help get the word out, to help promote it.
We can't see some of those smaller numbers
Right,
from here, but if you could just say, like, for a T-shirt or a band.
Yeah,
just-
so like the basic brand would be 10,000, and then going like with T-shirts from 250 up to 500, you're looking at about 20. Looks like my numbers are off a little bit there, but I think I got those turned around. But around 25, and then 2,500, and then posters would be around $600 to do like 500. Full color, two-sided, to like put in store windows and things like that. Stickers can, you know, be anywhere from, you know, a little 3-inch custom size sticker. Yeah, like 1,000 of those would be around $350. And so I also have up there like window clings and bumper stickers, even some patches. The patches would be, you know, roughly $745 for 1,000 of them, depending on what kind of distribution and how we're planning on getting these out, or if they're going to be giveaways or if they're going to be for purchase anywhere. And then mugs, of course. So like, you know, phase one would be roughly $25,000 to do the branding and all the swag and everything. And then moving on to what could potentially be like a phase two, we could do, I had an idea for like doing a commercial, and then we could do like a video, and that could be used for being broadcast on the web, things like that, or also being on television. So there's some numbers for production of some photography and some video that would also create like a photo library that we could use as part of the promotion. And I did work briefly with Hamilton Studio here in Spokane to kind of put together like a, just a quick sample video. Oh,
Oh. Hang on.
I'm not sure how to get the audio.
It might have been Hannah Lee doing that. I don't know. Can you do it? Okay. He says he can do it. Try it again. Let's go. Hannah Lee will be back. We can come back to that.
Okay. So anyway, for the video and film production would be about $10,000, you know, roughly, and then also the idea too of having a website that would be, you know, ADA compliant, that would give us a space to like even put some of the translations and talk about what each community translation would be, you know, maybe cover some local communities and some people in the city. And that would be something that could be updated on a regular basis to kind of be an information hub for people. And then that all kind of ties into social media and promoting things like that. And then the other idea too was to have a photo booth installation, like a library or something like that, where people could go in, have their picture taken, and then it would be branded with the elements from the campaign, and then they could share it online. It would also upload to our website so that we could use them for promotion, and people could just kind of print out their own copy of it right there at the location. And then, so that would be something that could potentially be installed on a yearly basis, or maybe it's only a 3-month thing or something like that, yeah.
Is there just no sound at all?
You could just barely hear it.
Oh, okay. It doesn't sound like we're able to have audio hooked up yet.
Yeah, it's just coming out like, sounds like it's coming out of the CPU
Yeah.
over here.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
If you send me the link, I'm happy to share it around if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Okay.
Yeah, actually, if you go ahead and send her the whole presentation on
Okay,
it,
great.
we can share it to
Okay.
other people who are interested. Great. All right.
Any questions?
Any questions for Derek? Yeah.
Not really a question. I just have a comment. This all looks so cool.
Oh, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
I was like, it just looks really cool.
Cool,
So,
appreciate that, thank you.
It's exciting to see.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it because we've talked to the Human Rights Commission and our Equity and Inclusion Committee, and we've started talking to neighborhood councils a little bit about it. But what this is really going to give us is something way more tangible than just the words to be able. That's why I want to be able to just share it out to people.
Sure, absolutely.
So great. Thank you
It
so
looks
much.
like Councilmember Stratton might have a
Oh,
question.
sorry. Councilmember Stratton.
Yes, thank you, Derek. That was a good presentation. I guess my question is this process. So, how do we move forward with this? Do we work with administration? I mean, is this coming from council? Is it coming from both council and administration? I just don't know where this lands and how we move it forward or what the process is.
Yep. The short answer is, so Derek doesn't know about that because Derek's job was to do this. But I did reach out to Brian Coddington earlier, and it's been, as I said, at the Human Rights Commission already. So that's what we need to figure out, Karen. So I'm waiting to hear back from Brian, his thoughts about it. We have kind of an informal slogan, City of Choice, and I asked him to give us the history on that. And was that an ordinance or a resolution or just a policy or just something they did out of the communications department? So so we need to have more conversations, but I wanted to have what it would look like before we did that. So now we have that box checked. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Derek.
Of course.
Perfect. Thank you.
And thanks, Melissa, too, in the back. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. All right, so we're going to move into the public safety overtime study. And I'm not sure who's, I guess you can introduce yourself. We probably are a hot panel with lots of questions
Okay.
right off the bat, so just,
Well, very good. I have
Just
a
a warning.
PowerPoint presentation here that we can share, and as you indicated, there's an
yep, but introduce yourself first.
Yes, my name is Greg Matthews.
Yeah.
I'm a senior manager with Matrix Consulting Group.
Yeah.
Matrix Consulting Group is a national firm, and we are 90% in, is this the,
You go up one, you're in the computer menu instead
right
of.
here.
Yep, that one right there.
thank you. We're a national firm that works with local government about 95% of the time, and our key service areas are public safety, public utilities, and public works. So I used to operate our Spokane, Washington office, but I have relocated to North Carolina, so it was a flight yesterday from Charlotte. So thank you very much for having me today to present the public safety overtime study. We have about 15 slides to go through, and as you noted, please ask questions as we go through them.
Councilmember Kinnear has one even before you get to the slide.
Okay.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
And hope your flight was uneventful. We received this, all of us got one of these, an entire forest. And we just got it 2 days ago. I had a little bit of time to peruse it. And I guess I'm a really good reader, really good reading comprehension and fast. And I don't know if we want to be PowerPointed more. What we really need is a discussion. So 15 slides doesn't sound like a whole heck of a lot, but I would really appreciate being able to ask questions. And this is probably long-term, from what I gather, this is a long-term solution to our overtime issues. And quite honestly, we have a problem right now. I want to know what we're going to do today. Our police is over their overtime budget right now. We need to know what we should do right this minute. And that's what I want to get before we leave
Okay.
today.
So what I'll do is I'll commit to getting this PowerPoint slide done in 35 minutes, so we have a half hour at least for discussion. And if you would like me to return to have another workshop, I'll be happy to do that as well.
Thank you.
Okay? So with that, let's go ahead and begin the PowerPoint. So what is today's agenda for the public safety overtime? I'm going to talk a little bit about overtime in a broader context, give you an introduction. We'll talk about the key findings of the overtime study that impacted both departments, and most of the findings did, in fact, impact most of the departments. And then we'll discuss a little bit near the conclusion of the presentation the fire and police differences relative to overtime. And then as it relates to conclusions and recommendations, that's a part of the presentation as well. There were 20 recommendations in the reports that you have in front of you, and I'll summarize a number of those, and of course we can converse upon those during our question and answer period. So what was the scope of work of the study? The study area included budgeting, accounting, reporting, information technology, policies and procedures, personnel and operating practices. Essentially, it was a soup to nuts evaluation of overtime in public safety. And then there were a number of deliverables. And I'm going to put also the deliverables in the context of the schedule, because you may be saying, Greg, didn't we approve this a long time ago? And the answer to that would be yes. This project actually began and kicked off December 1st, 2021. And here we are, May in 2023. So as part of the kickoff, we do a relatively elaborate data collection effort, which is collecting all kinds of information. It includes a number of interviews of members of council, mayor's office, union reps, fire and police individuals. That's all part of that data collection effort. Then we were asked, and we included at no additional charge, to do an employee survey. So that was an additional scope item. We prepared the employee survey, and the employee survey was actually released in April of 2022. And then we provided results at the end of May of 2022. We did a best practices assessment of overtime as another deliverable. That was a separate product that came in July of 2022. We did a half-day interim results workshop with members of all of the public safety units, the mayor's office. Councilmember Kinnear was there, so there were union members were there, so there was a number of us that participated in the half-day interim results workshop that we did in mid-September. And then precisely 1 year later, we provided the draft report, December 1st, 2022. That draft report was reviewed by members of the project team, which included public safety, it included the CFO's office, et cetera. And we determined as part of that review, because the contract was a public safety review and it was one document, we determined as part of that review that it would probably be better served if we provided two independent reports. A report dedicated to police, a report dedicated to fire, because it would provide some easier reading. So we took the consolidated report and we divided it into two reports. And that took a couple of months to do. So we had that second draft. Then you have received the final report, and of course the final deliverable is a presentation to the mayor's office, which happened a couple of days ago in this council presentation. And as I noted, I'll be happy to come back if you have further questions of me. So, per the agenda, to give you a little bit of context, why should anyone study overtime? Bottom line, why you should study overtime, you asked us to study it. But more broadly, why should you study overtime when it's really a small percentage of the budget? Over the course of the years, it's averaged about 6.5% of salaries and wages for the fire department, that portion of their salaries and wages. For the PD, about 5.5% of salaries and wages. Interestingly, despite that it's low dollars, it's related to higher risk. So overtime is a very good illustrator for the city of city risk. So really, when you talk about overtime, you're talking about overtime as a risk management exercise. So why, again? Overtime personnel, by example. Overtime impacts staff safety. It impacts their health and welfare. Overtime impacts staff work-life balance and morale. With regard to financials, it reflects the fiscal management capability of your organization, and it's an illustration of budget integrity. Also, with respect to management, the ability to deliver expected services through overtime use is important to know. And fundamentally, and you all know this, it impacts the perceptions by the community of city leadership. And city leadership is everybody in this room. It's council, it's mayor's office, it's the executives at the public safety departments. Just as an illustration this morning, as I was going through my notes, as it relates to the public safety perception, there were 4 articles between November of 21 and May of 22 about public safety overtime in your basic newspapers. So let's talk a little bit about overtime expenses, as again, Councilmember Kinnear noted at the beginning. So police and fire have exceeded their overtime budget for several years. Essentially, the two graphics, the one in blue represents a PD, dark blue is budget, lighter blue is expenses. Same for fire. Fire engine red is basically the budget. The darker red is basically the expenses. And you can see over in the 2020-2021 for fire, the very large spike in the COVID year. And that essentially was what precipitated this study. There was always an interest in overtime, but the trigger for the study was that particular expense. So you're going to see a number of these kinds of slides in the same format, so you become comfortable with them. I'm going to talk about the various findings by category, and then I'll talk about conclusions and recommendations. Essentially, these are in the order of the report. They're not necessarily in order of priority. If there's something of specific or highest priority, I'll alert you to that during the presentation. So let's talk a little bit about the overtime budgeting findings. The city has not historically used effective methods to budget overtime. It's been largely based on last year's budget. You collectively have infrequently improved change requests from the police and fire departments when they come and ask for overtime modifications. Those are infrequently have been approved. There's a limited use of data to make these kinds of decisions. It assumes last year's budget will be enough. Importantly, however, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, You have changed some of your philosophy. By example, in this current fiscal year, you've done some internal extensive staffing analyses for the this next fiscal year 2023 budget to help determine what overtime will be over the course of the next year. So since you haven't historically used effective methods, what's the outcome? Overtime budgets are exceeded. The average exceedance over several years is close to 40% for both departments. The average overage for police from fiscal year 16 to 21 was about $929,000 a year. The average overage for fire from the same period of time was $1.31 million a year. So instead of the way we did budgets, what's a better way to do budgets? What's a better practice? Overtime trend budgeting is one practice. You base that on prior year's overtime expenditures. You consider an inflationary factor, such as contract negotiations that imply raises for staff, those kinds of things. And to give you an example of a overtime trend budget, you could use the prior 2 years with a 4% inflationary factor. A best practice related to overtime budgeting is zero-based budgeting. The budget basically starts at $0 and then is built based on various factors. It includes the trend analysis we just noted. It includes inflation from bargaining group outcomes, et cetera. It includes these change requests from the departments and then confirmation that those change requests from PD and fire department are valid. It includes pending circumstances over the course of the next 12 months. We couldn't have predicted COVID-19, but you can predict such things as retirements, requiring backfill, those kinds of things. And as I already suggested, the city for this forthcoming fiscal year has done some of this. So I mentioned an overtime trend budgeting approach, and I gave the example of an outcome if you use the prior 2 years with a 4% inflation factor. And this is an example of what would have occurred if you took that approach for police. Gives an average for fiscal year 16 through 21. The overtime trend budget is listed in the left column. The actual expenses there, the difference between the trend budget, if that's the approach you had taken, and then the actual budget difference. If you look at the red line, as I noted earlier, you had an overage in PD on average per year of $929,000. If you used a trend budgeting approach, your overage would have been $52,000. So an enormous difference dependent upon the approach you took with respect to budgeting. So what are some of the conclusions and recommendations? Again, to highlight this is the slides that you'll see in this format. New budget approaches will improve transparency, fiscal accountability, and reduce risk. So summary of some of the recommendations are implement trend or zero-based budgeting. Overtime should be an independent budget line item that enhances transparency in your budget. You should be able to see overtime as an expense. You should also see overtime reimbursables or revenue as a separate line item. Because if the fire department sees, or you all see that the fire department might have spent $6.3 million, we also need to know that you got $1.5 million reimbursed. So you have a true picture of what is going on. And you also need to do regular overtime reporting to executives, the mayor's office, to the council, to address various risk issues. By example, we're over overtime. Why are we over overtime? What does that truly mean? What is the risk that the city is facing as a consequence of that? Next slide, findings with respect to overtime accounting. So overtime accounting has opportunities for improvement. The accounting practices require adjustments to help facilitate an understanding of overtime expenditures. Why are we spending overtime? What's the reason? Public safety has had difficulty getting good data. We had difficulty getting good data during the study. That's one of the reasons it took longer. Timely, accurate accounting data is difficult to come by here. Several different Excel spreadsheets are used by fire and police. Department-made overtime dashboards are also used to try to capture relative and relevant overtime metrics. And presently, these types of things, Excels, dashboards, et cetera, substitute for a cumbersome financial information system and the data that you get related to that. Overtime account codes are cumbersome. They're difficult to fully understand. There's too many codes of overtime to understand them well. Presently, only a few subject matter experts in police, fire, and the finance department can fully translate those overtime codes so that they know what they actually mean. There's different codes for the different departments. Some of them are necessary because fire and police's business is different, but others are not. And then fundamentally also, codes don't align well between your human resources system and your financial information system. So you have to do workarounds to have those better integrated. So the current accounting creates difficulties. Managers and staff have difficulty accessing and understanding overtime with the tools and approaches now used. As a result of a lack of that understanding, they have an inability to effectively and timely report. This is exacerbated by many legacy information technology systems that you presently have in play. With respect to findings on information technology, I indicated at the introduction of this presentation that I'd highlight for you what I believe is one of the key issue areas. This is one of the key issue areas here for your city. So information technology. Information technology limitations are a critical issue. Limitations result in the use of these workarounds, the Excel spreadsheets I've talked about, the dashboards, et cetera. The workarounds limit timely and accurate data that's available to the decision makers, the executives, the finance department, you all. Examples of IT limitations: Telestaff, which is the scheduling system; PeopleSoft, the HR system; FMS, the financial information system. Softwares are not well integrated. They don't talk to each other well. Systems don't have robust reporting mechanisms. The FIS data is a legacy system. The reports that I got were text-based, like old DOS. Probably a lot of you remember DOS-based or text-based reports. These are text-based reports, and those reflect an aged system. By example, there's no IT alerts. There's no red flag that appears that says, oh, you're over your overtime budget by X amount this month. You should take a look at this. Nothing like that. What are some of the operational outcomes related to that? There is a lack of integrated real-time data. Reports that are not user-friendly. They're antiquated reports. Reports that are not easily customizable for any of the executives, for you all, if you have a request. There are difficulties as a consequence of this in overtime accounting, and the reports lack timeliness. It's very difficult to get anything in a timely manner. What are some of the managerial outcomes of this? It's difficult to manage overtime effectively. It's difficult to exercise overtime internal controls. There's difficulties in understanding the specific uses of overtime. You can't find out right now if Officer Matthews is a top 10 user of overtime and why. Couldn't do it without a huge amount of additional work. There's difficulties in reporting timely information to various decision makers, such as the executives, the mayor's office, and the council. So what are some of the conclusions and recommendations related to this? Improved IT and related accounting practices will enhance the ability of decision makers to effectively manage, control, and report upon overtime in a timely manner. Recommendations are better streamlined overtime accounting codes. Develop internally, in-house, a longer-term IT strategic plan dedicated to an upgraded financial information system. You need better integration of budget, payroll, position control, and accounting software systems. You need, to the best of your ability, limit the use of Excel and other workarounds. You need to make important overtime information available in real time to the decision makers, to you all, et cetera. And you need to continue current steps that you're taking, such as your FIS web-based system software that's presently developed to improve your financial tracking. Some other findings relative to overtime personnel practices. Let's talk about the work schedule for police. Police's 10-hour and 40-minute work schedule contributes to overtime requirements. The schedule is...
You said in your report that was like the worst possible shift.
That
for financial
purposes, it compared to a 12-hour shift, an 8-hour shift, or a 10-hour shift, the answer is yes. Because over the course of a year, people are working less hours.
It takes more people to fill the slot.
As a consequence of that.
I understand there might be some labor negotiation issues, but what's police leadership's position on your analysis of that?
You would have to ask them.
But I guess my question was, were they Were they warm and welcome to your recommendations on that?
I believe the public safety departments were welcoming to all the recommendations. One of
Okay.
the issue areas, of course, is that's a meet and confer issue.
Yeah.
And importantly, I can also talk about the benefits of these schedules. This is an overtime, so I'm going to largely talk about the disadvantage of the schedules, but the benefits of the 1040 schedule, by example, is the time off. And with respect to work-life balance, you work 15 days on, 13 days off in a 28-day period. And as a consequence of that, I get family time. You know, I get important leave. These are high-stress
But you don't get it
environments.
if you're working the overtime. So right now the challenge is we can't find people to fill
Correct.
the slots.
That's
and
correct.
So it's the worst of all worlds. It's costing us more, and we're not getting the family time.
Correct. It requires more staff than an 8-hour, 12-hour, or 10-hour schedule, as we just discussed. With respect to the work schedule for fire, fire's 24 hours on, 72 hours off schedule contributes to overtime requirements. It's very common in Washington. It's also common in Massachusetts, by example, but it's not common nationally. It's not a common schedule. So a 3-platoon staffing model, a 24-hour, 48-hour 3-platoon staffing model is far more common in the United States versus the present fire department's 4-platoon model. Bottom line is the 4-platoon model requires 33% more baseline staff because you have to staff 4 platoons instead of 3 platoons with minimum or above staffing requirements. So what's the outcome of these schedules? More baseline staff require more overtime expense for shift coverage, as you noted, President. Maintaining shift coverage is one of the largest overtime contributors, particularly for fire. 92% of fire's overtime was related to shift coverage from FY 2019 to FY 21. These work schedules we originally raised in 2007's Matrix Citywide Report. I don't know if some of you know or all of you know, but we did a citywide report back in 2007. It was a higher level study rather than a deep dive, but the bottom line is we talked about these schedules in the 2007 report. What are some other practices, personnel practices? Fire and police maintain minimum shift staffing levels. That's very common. You know, practically every public safety operation maintains you need this minimum number of staff to operate effectively. So that's one of the practices that they do is appropriate. Having said that, the minimum staffing metrics, as I said, are common, but if they aren't optimized, they create overtime issues. For example, if the police department's minimum staffing, and I'm using just numbers here, is 20, but operationally they only need 17, then you have a delta there that creates overtime issues. In the absence of staffing studies, the potential overtime issue related to minimum staffing and what have you cannot really be addressed. Other findings relative to overtime operating practices, policies and procedures. A citywide overtime policies and procedures can be improved. There's no overarching human resources policies and procedures that dictate overtime management, internal control, et cetera. So if you look at a pyramid base at the top, narrow at the bottom, at the big base, there's no real strong base relative to overtime policies and procedures through through human resources. There's limited discussion of overtime in the fire department and police department standard operating practices, the manuals which govern and dictate how the police department and fire department operate. Many of the overtime policies and procedures are actually found in the public safety contracts. So you have to refer to the public safety contracts to really get a strong grasp on how to handle overtime relative to the fire and the police department. Most of the, regarding fire's contract, most of the overtime directives are in fire's contract. Having said that, as we reviewed the contract, there's nothing particularly egregious or out of the norm as it relates to overtime payment situations. In other words, we're not paying for things, you know, that's extremely uncommon relative to their peers nationally. However, the contracts are overly complicated. By example, with fire, you have 79 side letters as part of the fire contract. So you have to manage that bulk of information. With respect to the police department, the contracts, again, most overtime directives are in the police contract. Again, similarly, as a review of that, there's nothing particularly out of the norm. You're not paying for things that are outrageous relative to practices that might be different than their peers nationally. The contract is not as cumbersome to manage as the fire departments, but there are still 11 side letters related to the police department. What are the outcomes related to operations there? Minimal HR policies and procedures on overtime don't provide best practice baseline frameworks. SOPs with minimal overtime directives result in defaulting to contract language. There's cumbersome contracts which complicate the matters, since a lot of the overtime information is in those contracts, and all of these impact the ability to have effective internal controls. You really need a strong base built upon that, and presently that's not how the overtime policies and procedures have been developed. So what are some conclusions and recommendations related to personnel operations, policies and procedures, et cetera? Modifications in personnel and operating practices have opportunity to reduce overtime costs and improve management, oversight, and internal controls. Some of the recommendations: to better control shift coverage overtime, you need to address baseline and minimum staffing studies through a staffing study accomplished for both the police and fire department. The city and the union should discuss modifications to the police and fire work schedules. Again, that's a meet and confer. It's one of those negotiated areas. You need to develop detailed overtime HR policies and procedures to serve as an operational framework, include specific overtime protocols in the fire and police department SOPs, not the contracts. You need to minimize complexities of the contracts, fewer side letters, and overtime directives. During our conversation, just as a side now, a lot of these recommendations, since we've been working with the two public safety departments close to 18 months, a lot of these recommendations have either been implemented or are being implemented. I understand that they will be reporting to you upon the outcomes of these recommendations in a future workshop. That has yet to be scheduled, but that's one of the intentions, is that they'll get back to you on the 20 recommendations that we have made. Key differences between police and fire. This is the last slide before a formal question and answer in our discussion that Councilmember Kinnear wanted us all to have. So a little bit of background. Most of the issue areas we've discussed for overtime were similar for police and fire. There were, however, a couple of key differences. Fire's average overtime overage for each year was slightly less than police's. Fire's average overage was 38%. However, as you recall, that fiscal year 2021 COVID spike, that huge spike in overtime, resulted in this particular overtime study. Concurrently, a forensic audit by another firm was conducted of the 2021 fire department expenditures. And they ID'd some issues, but none of the issues were related to malfeasance. Some issues raised in that report have also been raised in this report, such as overtime coding. And then there has been recent collective bargaining outcomes that will or should reduce your overtime liability. They provided you with a framework of some of that collective bargaining in, I believe, a November 2022 PowerPoint presentation. Police's average overtime for years was slightly higher than fire's, 40%. But as you recognize, police's overall overtime expenses are lower. In the employee survey that I mentioned we conducted, many staff in the police survey indicated that overtime is far more impactful to their work-life balance than their counterparts in fire. So that is something, of course, to consider as it relates to this whole concept of risk assessment with regard to overtime. And finally, with respect to the conclusions, despite a few key differences, core overtime issues among police and fire are common. And if you execute many of the overtime best practices and recommendations that we made, it should facilitate better overtime outcomes. So with that,
That's awesome.
I did that
You were great at
in
doing
like
that.
23 minutes.
And I have to be somewhere else, so I'm leaving. It's not a reflection. It's not because I don't have questions for you. But
Want to go ahead and ask your question?
no, I'm good. I asked mine. Yeah, I got it. But thank you so much. And again,
You're welcome.
I have to be someplace else. But
Carry on?
yes.
Okay. sometimes we have to interpret, we're mind readers here.
I was trying to communicate with.
Yeah. So do we have, Councilmember Cathcart, do you have questions? You probably have dozens.
I have some, yes.
Do you want to go ahead and ask?
Can you pull your mic a little closer?
Yeah, well, I guess my first question, or the primary, is just, and you mentioned staffing, needing to do some sort of staffing studies, but I guess how much credence were you giving to kind of the public safety side of things when you are going through these recommendations? Thinking specifically about fire, if we reduce from 4 to 3, just those sorts of things, what are the implications on the public safety side, on the safety of our staff side, and those sorts of things, and how much does that kind of play into your analysis?
Well, it plays in this way. It was an overtime study, so we have to talk about the risks related to overtime. We did comment in the report about some of the positive aspects of the present schedule for fire, the 2472. One, just like police, you get additional days off. As a consequence, it enhances and facilitates that work-life balance. You mentioned, Councilmember, safety. By example, if you have a natural disaster or something like that, you have a larger fire contingent of staff because you're deploying across 4 platoons, so your baseline staff for fire is larger. So that would also be beneficial. But in the context of the study scope of work, which was about overtime, we're focusing upon those particular limitations of the schedule as it relates to overtime. We'll also commenting on the benefits. So fundamentally, the bottom line is this. If you have more people, you're going to have more overtime. So that's just really the way it is.
Well, and then the other part of it is how much do you factor in our ability to recruit? And so you mentioned the 10-hour 40 on police,
Yeah.
and how that actually provides kind of a good work-life balance, or may for some, although the overtime piece certainly plays a role in limiting that. But so how much does that factor in? Because if you change from say 72 hours to 56, does that does that make that harder to recruit? I mean, I just trying to think about all
Well,
those.
again, fundamentally, I'm repeating myself, but this was an overtime study. So these particular factors that you're talking about were tertiarily commented upon or not commented upon at all in the report. These are the factors that you would also collectively have to consider as you potentially renegotiate a new schedule. You did mention recruitment. Clearly, if you're recruiting fire and your peers are other fire agencies, practically all of them have the same kind of schedule. So would I rather have a 2472 schedule? Yes, I certainly would, because I get 3 days off instead of 2 days off on a 2448. So would that potentially impact my recruiting decision? Absolutely. Are you going to pay me more for working a 2448 than my peers? If you pay me more, maybe I'd be more inclined to work the 2448. So these kinds of collective decisions all need to be made with regard to the kinds of schedules that you implement. But again, with regard to overtime, it's an overtime issue. So that is one factor of many potential factors that you have to consider.
Well, and I asked the question because I think obviously being able to hire more, whether it's police officers or firefighters, is ultimately going to help us to have more people on their proper shifts and reduce that overtime. But if we're challenging ourselves in our ability to recruit and to fill those positions, then we're kind of 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, and trying to avoid that. So that's why I asked those questions, because I think it does play into
they're good
the
questions, and they're
overtime
absolutely valid questions
factor.
because while this is just an overtime study rather than what is the potential impacts on recruitment, by example. Well, if we did a recruitment study, we would say there's benefits to the 2472 just because it's competitive in the workplace. But this was an overtime study, and so we're commenting relative to the impacts on overtime.
And then my other question is just on the software side. You're talking about that we have some pieces in place that are good. I assume we need to use them better or use them more. But are there pieces completely missing, software elements, things like that would be a game changer if we invested in?
Well, again, one of the recommendations is you need to truly devise an internal information technology plan a strategic plan for information technology. Typically, those include other things than just financial information systems, HR. It's, again, a soup to nuts strategic plan for your city. So to your point, though, is there anything missing? Just the capabilities of the present systems and the levels of integration and its ability to generate real-time accurate data. Because there's a number of workarounds being used. The Excel spreadsheets that I mentioned. The vast majority of data we got from staff and what have you was in Excel spreadsheets. That's because the systems that they have don't really have the capability to run the reports that would be value added to them and to you.
Well, we just invested in a big financial software system.
That was your web-based system, I believe.
Yeah. And so are we using that to the best of our abilities, or do you think we're heading in the right direction on that?
That was actually implemented during the course of the study, so I can't comment on how well you've implemented, but I know the city is making strides to implement it in such a fashion that you can get better, more timely information to you and to them.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Stratton, do you have questions? Is she on there?
No, I think Councilmember Cathcart asked my questions. I was really curious about that IT piece and how we update systems and eliminate the workarounds and make it possible for departments to possibly work in the same software. So, because I know when council, this presentation, by the way, was wonderful because it made me feel like, okay, there's a reason why I have a hard time understanding the numbers when we have these discussions on overtime, because it is all over the place and it's very hard to keep track of. So I'm just hoping that we can see some improvements and some moving forward with IT to make it a little easier for reporting.
Thank you. I have one question. I'm not sure it's something you can answer. Did you find or look at when people are taking the overtime shifts, are we replacing apples to apples? In other words, officers or firefighters of an equal rank and not people who are higher paid to take an overtime shift? Was there any analysis done on that?
There was no analysis done on that.
Okay.
I know it at the beginning of the study as a consequence of interviews. It was permitted.
Yes.
So a captain could go take, by example, a shift for firefighter. And if I'm mistaken, correct me. But yes, that was possible. I don't know if that has changed as a consequence of new features.
Here comes the chief. Do you have an answer?
Good morning. I would just, as this process, I think he did a really good job. This has been going on for much time, and during that process also there was a collective bargaining agreement negotiated. That aspect that you addressed, the rank for rank is what we call it, that was addressed in a collective bargaining agreement. Labor management agreed to stop that, and the new agreement has that language in it, so we're not doing that any longer.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
And that's fire. Do we know if police is doing that? Sorry.
Good morning. So on occasion, we will allow, I'll use that when we were doing the downtown bar patrols as an example. On occasion, if we don't get officers that volunteer, we will allow a sergeant to fill that vacancy, just because we have a tired department. So we try to find how can we let our officers get rest when they need it and let those who want to come in and accept those opportunities work it. So on occasion we do. It doesn't happen very often. I can always try to quantify that, though. I can ask Kevin Schmidt if there's a way to quantify how many times that occurs.
I'm just trying to cover my bases here, and probably it's budget dust, and you get right down to it, thinking about the numbers. But I just wanted to get a baseline of what the practice is. So.
Yeah, it does happen on occasion. Typically, though, it will be a sergeant that may cover an officer position, and I'll use the downtown bar patrols as an example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm actually really curious with your very first question of what can we do right away, immediately.
Yeah, I was getting to that.
Okay, but so that one, but then also just curious the role of labor in all of this? I know you mentioned that there were some meetings that they were at, but I'm just curious. I know Randy is here from fire, and I don't see Dave Duncan, but just kind of curious what role they played in the study, and maybe is there any role that they're playing in next steps, particularly since some of this would require negotiation with them?
Certainly, yeah. Randy and his counterpart, we talked during the interview process. They helped facilitate, I think, some of the data collection. They were part of that September meeting. So, and in some areas we agreed to disagree. So they were part of the draft report review. By example. So the union was heavily involved, the executives were heavily involved, the project manager from the finance department was heavily involved, Councilmember Kinnear was even involved in the September session. So I think, one of our philosophies at Matrix Consulting Group is no surprises. So I think the interim deliverables that we provided, I don't think anybody was surprised by what we're saying. They may not agree with what we're saying. I think some of the issue areas that you brought up relative to changing schedules, they share that opinion. As I suggested, if you asked me to do a scheduling study, I could give you the pros and cons as every one of each one. But again, this was an overtime study. So, but I think they were involved. Randy, would you say you were involved?
We were involved. Yeah. I'm not commenting on some of the personnel.
Do you want to come up and talk in the microphone?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were involved in the process, and largely I think it's a good study. I do want to comment on the notion of the 3-platoon versus the 4-platoon system and how that occurs. We have data that has no bearing, in our opinion, on overtime costs as it relates to overtime specifically. If you're looking at how to fund, how you staff the fire department, there are industry standards for staffing. Currently, we staff 71 per day. If you were to look at a conservative model of what an industry standard might be, we'd be at 79. And you mentioned that the staffing standard isn't part of this process, but we're currently at 71. At most conservative, we'd be at 79, closer to 92. That's how many we have daily. So with 71, you can put in, whether it's 3-platoon or 4-platoon, to staff that number of people per day with, you need a certain number of bodies to fill vacant positions based on the number of hours we work. We work a 42-hour work week. We will be. You need 320 people assigned to operations to fill that void. And that's, normal leaves, normal stuff. So it doesn't matter. You can take that 320 and divide it into 3 shifts or 4 shifts. It's the same as it relates to overtime. You need the same number of people. On a 3-platoon system, you have Kelly days. On a 4-platoon system, you do not. So if we had 3-platoon, you'd take that entire 4th shift, and they'd be covering Kelly days to keep your hourly work week the same. So it's really irrelevant. The first thing that was mentioned was a discussion about risk management as it relates to overtime. The only way this 3-platoon works is by increasing the hours, which would be at minimum a 3-platoon is a 52-hour work week, if not a 56. So that's essentially having every employee right now working an overtime shift every week as a base part of your schedule, which the first thing mentioned was a risk management approach to working increased hours. We have long been trying to get that risk management down for our members and the public by having a lower, more common work week, which we're finally kind of achieving. And just like the schedule, 24/72 may be less common, but at one point in the fire industry, 10/14s was the common shift. And then it got 24/48s. I mean, it's an ever-evolving thing, and the schedule we're working is the one people are going to. Do you have any other questions?
No, but do you have any more?
No, not right now.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Let's ask the question again. What are we going to do right now? Police are over their overtime budget, and it's 4 months into the year. So if you project out for 12 months, we're talking millions of dollars.
3.5, I think, right now is Matt's projections.
Yeah, that's not acceptable. So what do we do right today to
Well,
cut those?
in the absence of having this year's information, I can only give you the coffee cup consulting opinion, if
We
that's
like
what you
that.
want.
That's fine.
So the coffee cup consulting opinion is this. Clearly, given the coding of the study and what have you, you're using overtime in many instances to cover shifts. And it's very clear over the years that you've had difficulty recruiting and retaining and filling vacancies, particularly in fire. So if you're having difficulties covering shifts, then you can change the shift structure, as we discussed. You could add more staff. But when you add more staff, the key issue area with that is, are you adding the right number of staff in the right places? Again, in the absence of a staffing study, I can't tell you if you need, as Randy said, 71 people per day, 82 people per day, 96 people per day. I don't know. I don't know what that is. But what I do know is if your 71 per day is your benchmark for staffing, then you need a relevant number of staff for those 4 platoons that cover those 71 people. And you have to consider what's called net annual work hours. I'm sick 60, 80 hours a week. I get vacation 3 weeks a year. I might get 2 days of bereavement. So all of those factors create absenteeism for one full-time equivalent. And consequently, you need more than one full-time equivalent staff member to cover that one body. So all of that information that they can collectively gather, another consultant can gather, is determine the proper number of staff. Ultimately, if you have the proper number of staff, overtime will ultimately come down. Unless you have a bunch of directives where I have to work overtime because I'm doing things above my normal job. Like, like every week you have, the basketball yearly thing you do. Well, if you're doing that every week instead of once a year, that's going to be a problem relative to overtime. Right. But fundamentally, a lot of overtime is triggered as a consequence of staffing issues. So,
Did you want to comment?
So it is a great question. I just want to kind of go over the state of the department and where we're at right now. It'll just take me a minute to paint the landscape. Thank you. So if you recall, we kind of saw going into 2022 that we were having staffing issues already. And so recall that we rolled back our traffic officers into patrol. We rolled back our neighborhood resource officers into patrol. We rotated some domestic violence officers back into patrol. And when we went to the staffing study, we also went from 4 shifts each day to 3 shifts. Made sense because if you have less officers and you have 4 shifts, you're spreading like peanut butter. It's super thin on 4 shifts. So we tried to beef up the shifts by going to 3 shifts as well. Understanding that wasn't popular with most of patrol. They like the 4 shifts, but the thing we tell them is we exist to serve the community, so we have to do what's in the best interest of the community. Things that we are trying to do is we have about 5 detectives that were promoted due to vacancies that we've left on patrol to help with overtime issues as well. Last year we had 36 retirements, and we're only getting 5 to 6 officers per academy. So when you look at our January academy and the current academy, we're only getting 5 or 6. When you have 36 officers retiring a year, you can't catch up. Right now, with the 2 academies we have this year, that will barely cover the retirements that we anticipate this year, let alone the retirements that we had last year. So if we have 2 academies this year so far, we'll maybe get 11 officers out of those academies, and we anticipate we'll probably have 11 or 12 vacancies. So we're not particularly gaining ground. Right now, as of this week, we have 63 positions that we just cannot use. That's on the department. We have 12 officers off on light duty. We have 5 officers that were injured on duty and are off because of light duty. We have 8 officers off for FMLA, and we have 18 vacancies, and then we have 20 officers in training that we can't use yet. So we have to achieve the minimum staffing. Minimum staffing is going to be 5 per team per shift as well. We're certainly not going over the minimum staffing. We also have 2 officers on overtime covering the proactively around the Trent shelter in the Washington camp as well. That's 2 officers, 12 hours, 7 days a week to help with a lot of the neighborhood and business complaints that we've had there. So again, when you're looking at the staffing issues, and I'm certainly not trying to be trite, but we don't have a contract yet. When people go to our website and decide if they want to come to us or the sheriff's office or a different agency, they're looking at what's the pay and what are the benefits. And as you all know, we don't quite have that contract yet. And then if you go to, again, I think you heard talk about the average number of officers we need. If you go to ICMA, they recommend about 2.5 officers per 1,000 of population, which would mean we would need about 570 officers to meet the national recommended number. We are authorized about 356. So if you're looking at what we're authorized versus what ICMA is saying is best practices, we're short over 220 officers based on the best practices as well. So I just tell you that I want to paint the landscape of the situation we're in. I've never seen 63 officers that we just can't use right now. And the things we're doing between motors, NROs, DV officers, not moving detectives back into their positions. So we have officers on the other end of the microphone, 36 retirements in 1 year as well. So it's just, there's multiple layers of this between recruiting, retirements, injuries. So I just wanted to kind of paint the landscape of we are trying to do things, but it's certainly feels like a perfect storm right now.
It is a perfect storm. I just wanted to clear one thing up. I want to make sure that, because Monday night Winston addressed this as well, and I didn't say anything at the time, but the lack of a contract right now is not because of council. So I want to make that crystal clear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope I explain. That's not pointing fingers at all. That's just explaining one of the variables that makes it challenging when people are looking at the benefits of SPD versus the sheriff's office, Liberty Lake, Airway Heights.
What about laterals? Are you talking about not being able to recruit laterals as well?
All the above.
Okay.
Yeah, all the above. So right now we have 2 laterals on our list, which is better than nothing.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any questions?
If I may, let me comment on one thing the chief said that's important, because as I said, we also do public safety consulting, and a couple of times all of us collectively have mentioned minimum staffing. It's a key to recognize that's the minimum.
Yeah.
That's not the desired staffing level. That's what is perceived as the bare minimum to safely staff the operation in the city. So when you say 71 is the minimum, or 5 per team, that's the minimum. As chief, it's not what I want, but it's what I'll minimally be able to provide, and you have policies around that typically that says, if I don't have the minimum, I call people in on overtime. Also, to give you some comfort, it's mentioned in the report, but it wasn't mentioned in the slide presentation. And that is this: there is a broader benchmark relative to overtime, that if overtime exceeds 10% of the salaries and wages budget, red flags should go up. Remember, we talked about systems that, with red flags. Well, that ratio is relatively easy, but if the ratio is 10% or above, red flags should go up. You're encumbering risk here. The bottom line is, with the exception of that COVID situation in 2021 with fire, neither fire or police hit that 10% benchmark or that red flag. That's not suggesting that all of these recommendations aren't appropriate, because they are, because you don't want to go over an overtime budget. I mean, a budget is a budget. You incur risk when you're over your budget, obviously. But as it relates particularly to overtime, you all don't necessarily have to worry if it's not 10% or above the salaries and wages. What you have to worry about is all of these other issues that we've discussed about appropriately budgeting, getting you information in a timely manner, et cetera.
We worry about everything.
Okay.
Council Member Stratton, do you have any more questions?
Lots to think about, but I'm good.
Yes, you are. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for flying in and providing us this information.
You're
greatly appreciated.
absolutely welcome, and thank you for your participation. It's greatly appreciated. In conclusion, just because we end our contract doesn't mean we end our service. If you have questions on our report, et cetera, you're always welcome to contact us at ASK, and that's pro bono.
And appreciate that PD and fire showed up and provided some information as well, so thank you all. We're adjourned. See you all Monday.
Thanks for using WebEx. Visit our website at www.